Now let's work on these problems. Three capacitors, C1 equal to 2.00 microfarad, C sub 2 equal to 5.00 microfarad, C sub 3 equal to 7.00 microfarad are connected in series. The total potential difference across the capacitors is 4.20 volts. Find the following: C total, Q sub 1, Q sub 2, Q sub 3, V sub 1, V sub 2, V sub 3, PE sub 1, PE sub 2, PE sub 3. Okay, so first, syempre, kailangan i-drawing natin yung circuit o yung connection. So, in series daw. So, pag in series, dapat ganito ang drawing. Ito yung C1, ito yung C2, ito yung C3. And the voltage across the capacitors, yung B total. Ganyan. Okay? Voltage difference across. So, pwedeng ganyan ang drawing pag series. Pero hindi lang ganyan. Take note, hindi lang ganyan. Pwede mong i-drawing to ng pag ganito. Series din to. Ha? Series. Yan. So, as you can see, there's only one line
that connects the capacitors. So, pag series, isa lang yung path, isa lang yung dinadaanan.
and the total voltage across the capacitors, yan, B total. Okay? Series din yan, ha? So, C1, C2, C3, C1, C2, C3. Pwede magbaliktad. Doesn't matter pag series.
Pwede rin naman ganito ang drawing ng series connection. So, kung pwede yung horizontal do sa una, pwede ring vertical. Basta isa lang yung path na dinadaanan o yung line na dinadaanan. At yung total voltage across the capacitors is measured from this point to this point. So, all of these are in series. Take note, it doesn't matter kung diretso yung line or lumiko yung line or kahit nag-curve yung line. They are all in series. Basta isa lang yung path na dinadaanan. If you think about this, na parang dinadaanan niya ng water, parang pipe, isa lang yung dinadaanan ng water. Isa lang ang direction niya. Walang ibang pwedeng daanan. So, these are all in series.
So, let's compute for the total capacitance. Anong formula for series? Ito. Ha? We have to use this one.
So, this is 1 over C total. Take note, parehas yung C total sa C equivalent. And this is equal to 1 over C sub 1 plus 1 over C sub 2 and plus 1 over C sub 3. Tatlo lang yung capacitors, so hanggang dito na lang.
So, plugging in the values. No? So, in microfarad to. So, pare-pareho naman in microfarad. So, gamitin muna natin yung microfarad. And in-expect natin sagot dito, microfarad pa rin. So, 2, lagay natin yung unit para hindi tayo malito kung standard na ba yung ginagamit o hindi pa standard. So, microfarad pa rin to. Okay? And the third capacitor, 7 microfarad.
Now, using your calculator, you will get 59 over 70. Now, ito'y fraction. Pwede rin gamitin ang decimal number, which is about 0.843, at least 3 decimal places. Though hindi to exact, no? Pero pwede naman gamitin. Hindi naman masyadong malayo. Now, itong 0.843, hindi pa yan ang C total. Don't be confused. That is still equal to 1 over C total. So, dapat kunin natin yung reciprocal. Kailangan i-interpret natin itong 0.843 na meron 1 sa denominator. So, therefore, yung C total natin is equal to 1 over 0.843. So, when you compute this, this is about 1.19. Of course, in microfarad, kasi puro microfarad pa rin yung pinanggalingan nito. Okay? Careful. This is, of course, kung kukunin mo yung fraction, this is equal to 70 over 59 in microfarad. Now, if we make this in standard units, this is equal to 1.19 times 10 to the negative 6 in farad.
Next is we have to compute the total charge flowing through the capacitors. The total charge. How do we get that? Ito yung total charge, ha? This one. Nilalagay ko ng capital T na subscript para you can distinguish it.
Now, kailangan natin ng equivalent circuit para magamit natin yung C total. So, itong tatlong capacitors dito, pwedeng palitan ng isang capacitor at ang value niyan is yung C total. So, the voltage across this total capacitor is equal to the voltage across these three capacitors. At ang hinahanap natin is yung total charge in this equivalent capacitor. And we will use this formula. So your total charge is equal to the total capacitance times the total voltage. Take note, kailangan puro total ito. Now, plugging in the values, our total capacitance is equal to 1.19 times 10 to the minus 6. Standard unit, farad. Our total voltage is given 4.20 volts. So we have to multiply this to 4.2. So using your calculator, you should get a value of 5 times 10 to the negative 6. This is charge, so dapat column ang unit. Also, we can write this as 5 microcolumns. Also, for a series connection, yung total charge is equal to the individual charges. So therefore, yung Q sub 1 mo is equal to your Q sub 2, and that's equal to Q sub 3, and that's equal to the total charge, which is equal to 5 times 10 to the minus 6 columns. Now we're ready to solve for the individual voltages. So ang gagamitin nating formula is still this one. So our V sub 1, the voltage across capacitor 1, is equal to charge 1 over capacitor 1. So, kailangan alam nyo nang i-manipulate ang ating mga formulas.
So, ano yung charge 1? Puro ano naman sila? 5 times 10 to the minus 6, diba? In standard units, columns. Divided, ano yung capacitance? 2 times 10 to the minus 16. Okay? So, this would give you what? 2.5 in volts. About V sub 2.
V sub 2 is equal to the voltage across capacitor 2. So, V sub 2 is equal to Q2 over C sub 2. Take note, kailangan puro 2 ang subscripts. Now, Q sub 2 is equal to 5 times 10 to the minus 6 in standard units. And our C sub 2 is equal to 5 times 10 to the minus 6 in farad. So when you calculate this, you should get 1.0 in volts. Next, V sub 3. Similarly, V sub 3 is equal to Q sub 3 over C sub 3. Q sub 3 is equal to 5 times 10 to the minus 6 divided by C sub 3, 7 times 10 to the minus 6. So calculating this, you should get 0.7 in volts. Now, if you notice, pag inad natin yung 2.5 volts, yung 1.0 volts, at itong 0.7 volts, we get 4.2 volts. Yan ang sinasabi nitong mga formulas dito. The total voltage is equal to the sum of the individual voltages.
No, pag inad mo to, 2.5, 1.0, and 0.7, that's equal to 4.2, which is the total voltage.
Lastly, we solve for the electric potential energies. Now we will use this formula for the average electric potential energy. At ang gagamitin natin itong first one. Pwede naman gamitin itong iba dito. It's up to you kung ano yung mas magiging madali. So our PE sub 1 is equal to 1/2 Q sub 1 times B sub 1. and that's equal to 1/2. Our Q sub 1 is equal to 5 times 10 to the minus 6. Our V sub 1 is equal to 2.5 volts. And calculating this, we should get a value of 6.25 times 10 to the minus 6. This is energy, so ang unit nito ay joule.
Okay, PE sub 2. One half Q sub 2, B sub 2. Plugging in the values. So, 5 times 10 to the minus 6. And what is our V sub 2? Yan, 1.0. So, therefore, you get 2.5 times 10 to the minus 6. Of course, in joules. And lastly, let's go down a little. So, PE sub 3. Same formula. Plugging in the values. 5 times 10 to the minus 6.
Times V sub 3 na sinolve natin dito, and that's equal to 0.7 volts. So calculating this, you should get a value of 1.75 times 10 to the minus 6, of course, in joule. Okay, let's move on to the next question. So this time, we have the three capacitors connected in parallel. They have the same values as before. The total potential difference across the capacitors is 2.00 volts. Find the following like in the first question.
So, paano ba tayo mag-connect ng parallel? Kailangan maintindihan natin to, no? So, yung usual would be like this, parallel. No? So, tatlong capacitors in parallel. No? And, as you can see,
isang terminal ng bawat capacitors are interconnected. So, nakikita mo yan dito sa upper part. Now, yung kabilang terminals naman ng mga capacitors are interconnected also, as you can see here. Take note, sa series connection, isa lang ang dinadaanan. Pero dito sa parallel connection, iba-iba yung pwedeng daanan. So, dapat alam natin yung difference ng series connection at parallel connection.
so ang parallel connection, hindi lang ganito, no? Pwede rin ganito ang parallel connection. Okay? Tapos ito, interconnected yung isang side at saka yung isang side. So, parallel din yan, no? In total voltage dito would be from here to here. Okay? Or from here to here. Yan yung total voltage across the capacitors. Okay, so let's solve for the equivalent or the total capacitance, no? Equivalent or total capacitance. Sa parallel, madali lang. You just have to add them. Ganun lang kadali. So, C1 plus C2 plus C3. Okay? Ano yan? 2 plus 5 plus 7. 14. Of course, microfarad to, ha? So, in standard, that's 14 times 10 to the minus 6 in farad. Okay? Now, what else do we know? Ito. Pag sa parallel connection, yung total voltage is equal to the individual voltages across each capacitor. So that means yung B sub 1 is equal to B sub 2 is equal to B sub 3. And that's equal to the total voltage, which is what? 2.0 volts. No? So, 2 volts. Okay, now we're ready to solve for the charges. No? So, charge 1 what formula are we going to use? Ito. So that would be C1 times B sub 1. Okay, so what is our C1? 2 times 10, no, in standard, to the minus 6, kasi 2.0 microfarad. Okay, ano yung voltage across? 2, no? Ito, B sub 1 is equal to 2. So therefore, we have 4 times 10 to the minus 6 in columns. Okay, so that's in columns. Charge 2, that's C2 times B2, B sub 2. C2 natin, 5 microfarad. Okay, so minus 6 times, ano ang B sub 2? It's 2, no? Here, it's 2. So, we get here 10 times 10 to the minus 6 columns. And next, we have Q sub 3. C3 times B sub 3. Ang C3 natin, C sub 3 is 7 times 10 to the minus 6 times 2 volts. So therefore, we get 14 times 10 to the minus 6 columns. Okay, so now we're ready to solve for the potential energies, no, across each capacitor. So that's 1/2 times Q sub 1 times B sub 1. Okay? So plugging in the values, that's 1/2. Ang ating Q sub 1 dito, 4 times 10 to the minus 6 times B sub 1, which is 2. Okay? So therefore, meron kang 4 times 10 to the minus 6 joules. No? PE sub 2, you have 1/2 Q's of 2 times B sub 2. So this is 1/2. Your Q's of 2 is 10. 10 times 10 to the minus 6 times your V sub 2, which is still 2 volts, or is also 2 volts. Therefore, your answer here is 10 times 10 to the minus 6 in joules. Na? Okay, let's go down a bit. Wanting space tayo dito. Your PE3, potential energy 3, na across the third capacitor is 1/2 Q sub 3 times B sub 3. And that's equal to 1/2 times, what is your Q sub 3? 14 times 10 to the minus 6. Okay, and times B sub 3. What's B sub 3? That's 2 volts. Okay, so the answer here is 14 times 10 to the minus 6 in joules. Okay, so what do you notice also, no? Regarding the charges, if you add this, okay, if you add the charges, no, sabi dito yung total charges is equal to the sum of the individual charges, no? So if you add this 4, 10 and 14, what do you get? That's equal to 28, di ba? That's equal to 28, which is actually the total charge.
So that's one way to solve for the total charge. But let's compute the total charge in this way. So this means na meron tayong option in solving for the total charge. So we can just simply add the charges to get the total charge, or we can use the total capacitance and the total voltage. So the total charge is equal to the total capacitance times the total voltage.
What will we get, no? Itong formula lang ding ito, no? What do we get? The total capacitance is 14 times 10 to the minus 6 times the total voltage, which is 2. Okay? The total voltage is 2. Okay? And when you compute this, you get 28 times 10 to the minus 6 columns. Okay? So, dito, you get 28 times 10 to the minus 6 column, which is the sum of these individual charges across the capacitors. 4 plus 10 plus 14 is equal to 28, which is equal to this, no?
So it's good na may options para may pang-check ka sa mga answers mo.